You are not a Microsoft slave. You own your device. Take your freedom back. Dump Windows, otherwise it will own you.
Absolutely. There are a ton of these investments that will be dead ends.
That we're gonna leave. We're gonna stop supporting Windows.
Bill Gates is furious because Windows 11 is actively driving users away from Microsoft instead of locking them in, and the evidence is now too big to ignore. What should have been a routine operating system upgrade has erupted into a user revolt, with people downgrading, migrating to Linux and Mac, and willingly accepting cost and inconvenience to escape Microsoft's imposed direction. The real shock is that Windows 11 has shattered decades of trust so completely that the platform Gates built is now losing its grip on the PC market in real time.
When you get disrespected as a user to the point where you want to abandon the product, you want to vote with your feet and make a point. And Windows has been so infuriating. Windows 11 specifically.
Let's start with the failure that made everything else unavoidable. Windows 11 could not win its own user base. Operating systems usually follow one simple rule. Once adoption starts, it climbs steadily as upgrades roll out, hardware refreshes happen, and inertia does the rest. Windows 11 broke that rule. Adoption stalled, hesitated, and then showed signs of sliding instead of accelerating, which signals rejection rather than delay.
I personally feel like at this stage of the game, Mac OS and Linux are better options than Windows because of all the aggravation that I have to put up with. Windows 11 is intrusive, it is annoying, and it's super gimmicky. Now I get that Microsoft invested
By 2024 and into 2025, Windows 11 still struggled to dominate the Windows ecosystem despite relentless upgrade prompts and hardware partners pushing new machines. Even as the clock ticked toward Windows 10's end of support deadline, millions of users refused to move. That behavior alone should have set off alarms inside Redmond, because fear of lost security updates usually forces compliance. This time, it failed.
I have to be honest, that is not secure. Microsoft will not fix serious security bugs, and there are serious security bugs.
Users weighed the trade-offs and decided that Windows 11 carried a higher cost than the risk of remaining on an older system without security updates. Windows 11 demanded new hardware, deeper cloud integration, permanent accounts, background services, and AI layers, while offering fewer controls, worse performance for many workflows, and constant interruptions. Security deadlines were always Microsoft's strongest tool for moving users forward. When users willingly accept risk instead of upgrading, Microsoft loses that leverage completely.
Windows has been forcing us to use cloud services constantly with features like OneDrive to ensure that you keep your files on Microsoft servers, and now they're pushing the new Windows backup. There's the push for Office 365, again to ensure that Microsoft keeps your documents.
Once an OS stops moving forward by default, confidence cracks. Enterprises pause deployments. Developers hesitate to prioritize it. Hardware partners lose certainty. Windows thrived for decades because upgrades felt inevitable and safe. Windows 11 turned upgrades into a debate, and debates kill momentum.
I mean, this has been going on for a while, and I want to discuss it because the ads issue on Windows is so aggravating.
Users are leaving Windows altogether. This is no longer a story about dissatisfaction inside the Windows ecosystem. It is a story about people learning they have viable alternatives and acting on that realization. Over the past few years, Linux desktop usage has climbed steadily. Mac OS has gained ground in professional and enterprise environments, and Chromebooks have expanded beyond education into business deployments. These shifts matter because they represent users who once defaulted to Windows and no longer do.
Linux is getting easier and easier for people to use, and the barriers are getting lower due to things like Proton. 10 years, 15 years. If people just don't really care that much anymore, they could try.
They'll still care about...
Consider it long-term PMs at Microsoft. Consider it. I would love it to happen. I want Windows to die.
The barriers to exit have collapsed. Linux distributions now install easily, recognize hardware automatically, and run mainstream applications through native software or compatibility layers. macOS offers predictable performance, strong battery efficiency, and a controlled ecosystem that many professionals find easier to manage than Windows 11's constant changes. Chromebooks provide low-maintenance devices for roles where simplicity and security matter more than legacy software.
First is the push for the security chip called a TPM chip, which is lacking on old computers, and which I will tell you now is a huge risk to privacy. And the second justification for Microsoft is to encourage more people to use Windows Copilot, which creates AI-capable computers. Again, a massive risk to privacy.
Once users cross that bridge, they rarely come back. They rebuild habits, workflows, and muscle memory elsewhere. Files move. Teams retrain. IT departments adjust policies. Windows loses more than a user at that moment. It loses influence, future upgrades, and the assumption that it is the default choice. Every user who leaves reduces Microsoft's ability to dictate standards, control developer priorities, and anchor the PC ecosystem.
I like it, but the complaints are valid. Number one, the telemetry. It sends information back to Microsoft. It's supposed to be stats to improve your experience. Number two, Microsoft put ads in the start menu. You can turn them off, but you have to go find the settings and turn it off. It really is obnoxious. Number three is that Microsoft works really hard to force you to make a Microsoft.com account instead of just an account on your computer.
Microsoft crossed the line from unpopular design to open hostility toward its own users. Windows 11 told millions of users that their perfectly functional computers were suddenly unacceptable. The and hardware requirements locked out an enormous portion of machines built between 2016 and 2019, systems that still run modern workloads smoothly. These were not outdated devices struggling to keep up. They handled creative software, business applications, and gaming without issue. Overnight, Microsoft labeled them obsolete through policy, not performance.
But basically, most people will be forced to put an ID card on your computer, so whatever you do on the internet can be attributed to your particular machine. When Microsoft began pushing this heavily in later updates of Windows 10 and now locked in Windows 11 for the most part, it was the first sign of a red flag.
That decision shattered the unspoken agreement Microsoft had with its users. People buy computers with the expectation that software upgrades extend usefulness, not erase it. Windows 11 reversed that logic. Software became the mechanism that shortened hardware lifespans, forcing expensive replacements for no functional reason. This was not about security or stability. It was about enforcing a new baseline that aligned with hardware partner sales and platform control.
They had that recall disaster where they were playing with adding to Windows 11 that it was saving screenshots and every bit of text you ever saw on your computer, including passwords and things, into an unencrypted file in your home directory that any app running as you could pull all the text out and send it anywhere. I mean, just a complete privacy and security disaster.
Then Microsoft made it worse by trying to enforce compliance. Users discovered that Windows 11 could run on unsupported hardware and successfully installed it using documented workarounds. Instead of acknowledging reality, Microsoft treated its own users as adversaries. Each time a workaround spread, Microsoft patched it out. Users found another path, and Microsoft closed that one too. An operating system was actively fighting the people trying to use it.
Microsoft is definitely not interested in respecting your rights to have other things on your computer, even in separate partitions. I have had multiple instances of Windows wiping out entire Linux partitions and even a data-only partition just because it didn't recognize the format.
When a company invests effort into blocking capable hardware while leaving real performance and usability complaints unresolved, priorities become obvious. This escalation hardened resistance. Power users, IT professionals, and technically literate customers recognized that Microsoft was no longer willing to compromise. By turning upgrades into a confrontation, Microsoft destroyed the cooperative relationship that sustained Windows for decades. Users had tolerated bugs, design mistakes, and bad releases before. What they would not tolerate was an operating system that treated them as obstacles to be managed rather than customers to serve.
Microsoft is blocking more ways to set up a Windows 11 local account. When announcing Windows 11 Insider Preview builds 26.120.6772, Microsoft revealed that they are removing known mechanisms for setting up an offline or local account.
Many longtime users stopped seeing Windows as their operating system when Microsoft removed meaningful choice around local accounts. Setup increasingly requires internet access, cloud authentication, and identity tied directly to Microsoft's ecosystem. For decades, Windows allowed people to treat their PC as a self-contained tool. You turned it on, logged in locally, and worked. Windows 11 reframed that relationship. Login credentials, settings, backups, and usage data now flow through Microsoft by default. Control shifted upward, away from the user.
Like, I have to pay for a freaking PC. What's more is I have to now pay for the apps that I use. If I want to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, right? Microsoft Office, you have to pay for it. So we're paying for it. Why are we getting slaughtered with ads? This is such bad business.
A forced account transforms the OS into a permission-based system. Access to your own device becomes dependent on an external service. Professionals, privacy-conscious users, and IT administrators reacted immediately. Forced accounts complicate deployments, break established workflows, and introduce new points of failure. The computer no longer belonged fully to them. It belonged to Microsoft's platform first.
They really want you to use OneDrive and cloud storage.
And that's why they're forcing it.
Windows has been forcing us to use cloud services constantly with features like OneDrive to ensure that you keep your files on Microsoft servers, and now they're pushing the new Windows backup.
Once Microsoft secured the account layer, Windows stopped behaving like an operating system and started behaving like a monetization surface. Ads appeared inside the Start menu and File Explorer. OneDrive prompts became persistent. Microsoft 365 upsells followed users across the desktop. People paid for their hardware, indirectly paid for Windows through that hardware, and then discovered the OS was advertising back to them. Windows no longer existed to stay out of the way and get work done. It existed to funnel users toward subscriptions, storage plans, and engagement metrics.
Added to your upcoming extreme relationship with the Windows Copilot AI companion, this is now going to be extra dangerous. What would have been a better option is to be able to insert your own security chip in your computer, similar to a YubiKey, where you can plug it or remove it at will depending on what you're doing.
Then Microsoft layered AI directly into that monetization model. Copilot was embedded across Windows, popping up uninvited, offering suggestions nobody asked for, and returning after updates even when users disabled it. Recall escalated everything by proposing continuous screenshot capture, indexed by AI. The backlash was immediate because this crossed from annoyance into fear. An OS that watches everything, stores it, and promises safety later demands trust it no longer has. Professionals handling sensitive data understood the implication instantly.
I just want to use my laptop. I have a lot of storage on it, and I love to have external storage and save everything there. Why am I being forced to have a OneDrive account and store everything there? It's like they're trying to lose the customer.
And if this made you rethink Windows 11, like the video, share it, and subscribe, because it only gets worse from here. Performance made the problem impossible to ignore. Windows 11 promised efficiency and speed, yet benchmarks and real-world usage repeatedly showed slower application launches, lower gaming frame rates, and heavier background activity compared to Windows 10 on identical hardware. Background syncing, telemetry, AI services, and cloud hooks consumed resources continuously. For gamers, creatives, and engineers, performance losses were measurable and costly. When an OS makes expensive hardware perform worse than before, users stop listening to marketing and start looking for exits.
Have to be running on a Windows Copilot PC with Windows 11. And if you have this set up, then Windows Recall starts recording all your activity by screenshots every few seconds. Then the AI analyzes what's happening on screen and notates it and stores that information on the hard drive. In which case, Windows 11 will have a complete history of your life.
Those exits showed up first among professionals and businesses. Law firms, design studios, engineering teams, and IT departments reported higher support loads, workflow friction, and productivity drops after upgrading. Some measured it directly and rolled back. Others stopped deploying Windows 11 altogether and piloted macOS, Linux, or Chromebooks instead. Once organizations absorb the one-time migration cost and see lower support overhead afterward, the decision locks in. Windows loses entire workplaces at once, not just individual users.
I think they finally backed down further than that.
So are there other reasons people don't upgrade?
Well, yeah, so Windows 11, they set these high hardware standards, and they're not letting a lot of computers upgrade. So, Microsoft's answer is, well, it's time to buy new PCs, but machines are working fine. People want to keep using them. We can't keep dumping machines that work perfectly well every couple of years.
Brand loyalty collapsed. Longtime Windows users who once defended Microsoft publicly started warning others away. Net Promoter sentiment flipped from positive to negative. Social platforms filled with farewell posts from people who had used Windows for decades. Loyalty was Microsoft's strongest asset. Windows survived bad releases before because users stayed emotionally invested. Windows 11 turned that pride into embarrassment. Power users and developers amplified the damage. Journalists who built careers covering Microsoft switched platforms. Engineers and IT veterans stopped recommending Windows. Developer sentiment surveys showed hostility replacing goodwill. Developers decide where software gets built first. When they disengage, ecosystems shrink. Windows began losing its gravitational pull as the default target platform.
Now, of course, philosophically speaking, putting your entire life on a computer changes the way you use a computer. Suddenly you have to be super interested in cybersecurity because you need to protect your device in ways you didn't have to do before.
Internally, the strain became visible. Microsoft announced large layoffs while continuing to pour money into AI. Headcount reductions paired with aggressive platform changes signaled restructuring under pressure rather than calm optimization. Windows, once the stable foundation of the company, no longer looked untouchable. Bill Gates built Windows around the idea that software should empower users and stay out of their way. Windows 11 represents the opposite philosophy. Control replaced choice. Extraction replaced trust. Strategy overrode experience. When a founder watches the platform that defined personal computing alienate its own base, the anger is about more than numbers. It is about seeing a decades-long social contract broken in a few product cycles.
When I start up the computer and then I open up the Windows bar, I don't want to see ads. I don't want to see ads when I'm simply searching for a document. It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. This aggressive
Adoption stalls. Users accept risk or leave. Professionals migrate. Developers disengage. Enterprises reevaluate. Network effects weaken. Windows stops being the default and starts being one option among many. Microsoft once owned the PC by consensus. Windows 11 shattered that consensus by putting corporate priorities ahead of the people who made the platform dominant in the first place. Would you stay with an operating system that treats you like a data source instead of a user? Drop your views in the comments.